welcome to episode number 9. Wow, we might even make 10. We took off a week.
Probably not.
Yeah, we had, we had a lot of stuff coming up. I think both of us been under a little bit of, I guess stress.
Good, really good stress though. Not the common stress that if we would say to everyone else, they'd probably be like,
yeah.
"What are you guys talking about?"
Yeah,
so,
I do. I kind of hate bringing stuff up like that because it's like,
no,
I have I'm very grateful.
Yeah,
for
the
what
gym's
I
growing.
Yeah.
Things of that nature. So
Yeah.
awesome stress, I guess.
Yeah, but I'd also really been stressing about unlocking the cage because I'm nearing the final stages. I'm just not sure about some things, and so I was down myself for a little bit. But now that I got past that, I was like, things are cool. Things are back on track, and the yoga's helping a lot.
That's something I never really thought about as far as for authors is for like they got shit going on in their life too. They're not just gonna just sit down and write this masterpiece.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Stephen King just sits down in his room with these cigarettes and knocks it out. But now like knowing you, I see the process and it's like, wow, that's why I'm not an author.
Well, and it and like with anything, like it's gonna take time. And right now, I'm choosing to use my time to come and do yoga.
Yeah.
And like so that was hard, making the drive to go train jiu-jitsu like regularly. Or not really regularly, but I tried. Like that was cutting into time, so it's like it's hard doing that because, dude, all the time my brain's trying to figure out some kind of story or trying to figure out the book, and sometimes I'm like the other day I was mad at myself for I didn't accomplish that much as far as like number of words written or anything like that. I wanted to finish the chapter, but I thought about like the overall book and that chapter and everything else like much deeper, and so I was like, well, it wasn't a waste. I was like, even though it's not tangible, I can't see it on paper. It's like I at least got that clear.
No, I mean I think we've had this conversation before. I'm sure most of the athletes in the book would much rather you take your time, really think about it, gather the thoughts that need to be there instead of trying to make a deadline or something like that. But so I think we talked about it. Take your time. Just let it go, let it flow, and I'm sure the book's going to be what it is. So,
no, that's cool. Yeah, you've definitely helped a lot with that. Another thing. Well, on today's episode, we're going to be talking with a physical therapist, Mike Coe, who would come in here. He had trained with us, jiu-jitsu and yoga.
Yeah.
And then we went down to his place to try to session his stuff. But before we even get into that, I wanted to talk about, what yoga's done for my knee. I mean, this episode is about movement, therapy, making ourselves better. In episode 3, I took you down to see my brother, Dr. Steve Tullius in San Diego, for chiropractic adjustment and just a different way of understanding chiropractic. And then also Dr. Holland. But this time I was like, okay, well, let's go to your physical therapist.
Before we even get to like yoga, I want to talk about what were our physical therapy experiences before we met Mike?
Well, that was I would say they weren't bad. But yeah, that's why when you told me about like, oh, he's a physical therapist and he's gonna come in, I was like, well, why am I gonna do that if I'm doing yoga? If I got chiropractic, I think. My thinking is physical therapy is for injuries. Like, so that's somewhere you go if you're playing sports. Like I went to, and physical therapy helped me so many times. Yeah. And if I had continued doing physical therapy like I was supposed to on my own, I would have probably saved myself from so many future injuries.
Yeah. Well, you nailed it right there.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I think yoga is. I don't, I think it's the repetitive physical therapy that you do to yourself. Like with your knee, we focused a lot on your knee. We did lunges to a certain degree. Then we catered it for a while, and then we ramped it up, and we did a lot of stability and balance stuff for your knee. And now your knee is better. We don't know if it's 100% yet. I'm not a doctor, but it's way better. You can grapple. You can do all these things without a brace now. So it helped you, and it's just physical therapy on a self level, I guess. It's like self-medicating, self-physical therapy. But I think it's really valuable. People like them or people like them, physical therapists.
Right.
Because when shit goes wrong and if you do really hurt yourself, you need someone there who knows what's going on in the body, who's licensed, went to school for it.
Right.
You know, not just a yoga instructor who might not understand the intricacies of the body or the bones or the muscles and tendons. You know, we know a lot, but we're not doctors. So I I always think the physical therapy is important, but being in service, I had a bad, interaction to it. Hurt my back. It just sent me around to I probably did 2 or 3 sessions of physical therapy, which are 6-month long sessions. And, once again, I was in the service, so that throws up the flag right there. But I was just a number, and they were just trying to brush us through and look at our chart, pain here, pain there, pain here, do this, do that, and then come back tomorrow, take these pills, and come back and do this. But and when I got out, I assumed it was going to be something similar to that when I would go visit another physical therapist. But Mike was awesome, and it was great. His setting was great, especially for athletes, martial artists. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's what I like. We'll share his clip, but I like how he talks about, he helped me look at physical therapy a little bit different. So here's his clip. And I also apologize if you see a little kid running around on the screen. We took that was another interesting thing because we had to set up the appointment ahead of time, and you never know our schedule. And if I have a babysitter, and that day I had Jake, and I asked Mike, who just had a little baby girl. I said, "Hey man," I was like, "I could do it." I said, "But Jake will be along." And so if you hear a little kid running around and. He did his best.
Yeah, he was great. For 3 years old, he's great.
I started my own practice called Movement IQ Physical Therapy about a year ago, right? And my purpose was to try and be a physical therapist, but also be one of the leading physical therapists in Orange County for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt under Chinguia Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy in Yorba Linda. So I was just trying to get myself a little more immersed within the BJJ community. And then I followed you on Facebook, and I just saw that you were kind of close to where I'm at in Whittier. So I saw that over at the 10th Planet Youth Center was opening up. I thought it was just a way for me to try and reach out and be part of that community. Knowing that you've done your own version of yoga that's more tailored towards Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I was very much very curious about that, so I wanted to check it out. Most of the Jiu-Jitsu I usually do is gi strictly, so it's always fun to be able to do the no-gi and get your ass handed to you, especially with the 10th Planet system. It's so different. I don't really know where you guys are coming from. So it's a great learning experience. But also, I love creativity, looking at how you can take traditional yoga that was done in India, how many hundreds of years ago, and then try to incorporate to newer stuff, or cross boundaries and something else. And what you came up with, I thought was great. Definitely is. I can see how it can carry over towards Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and how those two worlds can meld, and you can improve people, whether it be just looking at it in the yoga perspective or improving Jiu-Jitsu or just in general life.
Yeah, dude, that's all. And then we started talking, and you mentioned that you had your own practice. You said come down, so here we are, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So what exactly are you going to do today? What's going to happen? What kind of tests are you going to be running, and what's going on today?
Yeah, so today what I wanted to do is focus on the idea of motor control or neuromuscular re-education, right? I think a lot of the medical fields really focus on the mechanical component, or the ability for your body to mechanically move. Do joints move? Do muscles move? Do nerves move, right? But then can you re-educate that body afterwards? I think a lot of people will go get treatments here, whether it be massage or PT or chiropractor, and it's like, hey, can you move me real quick? You hear a pop, you do something to the muscles, you can get better movement. But did you do anything to re-educate your body to know that you have new movement, and can you maintain it? That's going to be the issue. A lot of people will have treatment, feel better for a day, week, a month, right? And all of a sudden, little by little, you revert back to where you were before. I want to try and help people to be able to maintain your changes as permanently as possible. And what are those things you can do? And so to me, that's going to be more the neuromuscular re-education, the motor control improvements that you can have. So the reason I like yoga is that you can say it does a little bit of everything of what I just said. Can you get improvements in the mechanics, but can you also train the muscles and re-educate it?
And that's interesting because, like you said, if you stop it, or if you go to yoga for a week and you feel great, or a month and you feel great, and you stop, everything just reverts back to normal. Same with, like, if you get adjusted, you get adjusted by a chiropractor, it feels great, you hear the pop, you hear the release, and then your body just goes right back to it. So yeah, okay, cool.
And how strong is that muscle memory? Like, the longer you have an injury, the harder it retrain it so it doesn't revert back to that?
Yeah, so parts of it is going to be educating your body to be able to do what you want it to do. But the other end, you got to break out of possibly bad habits you might be doing to get you in that position, right? So if I have someone who comes in, it's like, I have a really tight neck, I'm glad you did all this stuff for me, right? But then within a week, it's like, yeah, within a week it came back. That's not so much I didn't do something good for you per se in that treatment. It's what are some of the things that maybe we're not picking up that you're doing on a daily basis that's causing it again?
Posture,
posture alignment, body positions, work conditions. One thing I tell my patients all the time is that technology to me is a huge factor why we are where we are, where people have tightnesses and issues here. Because we're looking down at phones, we're using iPads, we're driving, we're sitting all day. When you could say caveman didn't do that. They were standing up, walking around, moving around.
And can you even tell us just a little thing of looking down at your phone? Can you tell us why that's so bad? Because that doesn't seem like
I'm all fixing my posture.
that doesn't seem like a big deal, but
yeah.
You explain why that makes such an impact on our.
So first, our bodies are made to be upright. Our bodies are designed so that our head is going to be over our rib cage and do what we need to do there, right? So first, when you start bringing the head forward, now you're not on top of the rib cage. Not only that, you're bringing this bowling ball of our head forward, right? And anything what you're doing is you're increasing the lever arm or the distance for there. It's increasing the amount of force that your neck muscles have to work. It's like if you carried a bowling ball here close to your body to out here, a 10-pound volleyball, the weight didn't change, but the amount of force that's going to go into your shoulder has now changed. So the same thing happens. So now your neck muscles in the back have to do so much more work. They get beat up, they get collagen fiber formation, and you get pretty much your restrictions or your knots develop over that time. But another thing you have to think about too is that the nervous tissue that comes out from the neck down into the arms, they come out in between vertebrae. So if you have C6 and C7, you got a nerve root that comes out in between those. So now if your neck is always forward, what pretty much happens is now your neck is in alignment, it's shifted forward and stays there all the time. Yeah, so what happens now, that hole where that nerve comes out, it's pretty much half a circle that comes out, and they're supposed to be in line on top of each other. Now if you're looking down all the time, now that half circle that circle you made with two half circles might be like this. And essentially you're making that hole smaller for that nerve to come out, and then it might get pinched, it might get irritated, send pain down the arm.
Now, what are you doing to help? So when we get into that, well, two things. One is, I think a lot of people think they would only need physical therapy or they would only need something like this if they had an actual injury, like a car accident or something like that. But to me, it seems like I think everyone going day-to-day life, because of texting, because of driving, because of how we're sitting, like we all probably have some kind of issue that could be improved, but we just get used to it.
Yeah, definitely. You get used to it, you deal with it. I think people don't have the education to know that this potentially could become a really bad problem. I'll just deal with it later. I don't have the money, I don't have the time. There's a lot of excuses that come around until you get that moment where the pain sets in, right? And so that's when that's the call to action. I got to do something about it, right? But to me, I'll get the question a lot. It's like, I've been doing this job for 5 years and I don't have pain until now. I haven't been doing jiu-jitsu. I've been doing jiu-jitsu. I'm a purple belt now. I've been doing it for 8 years, but I'm getting issues now. Why is it now that I'm getting pain? And my often answer is going to be, it's not so much that you have something happen just a little bit ago that caused the pain. It's been working and developing over time to the point where you hit that threshold that you felt the pain. So I say a lot of analogies to my patients. So my analogy for that scenario is my car, I get oil change every 5,000 miles. If I wait until 6,000 or 7,000 miles, that car's still going to run. It might not perform as optimally, but it's still going to get me from point A to point B. But if you don't change that oil, at some point, there's going to be a breaking point, and then the car's going to break down. That breaking point is usually the onset of pain. But there's all this other stuff that happened mileage before. Exactly. Right.
That's a good point.
I'd like for you to mention your education, right? Because I think what did most people think physical therapist or something along those lines. What are they thinking? So the person has a master's?
Up until relatively recently, physical therapy, if you went to physical therapy school, you got a master's, right? But there started being a shift roughly around the early 2000s when the industry or the profession started going towards getting a doctorate. So it's another year of school on top of that.
Okay.
And the purpose of that was to try to become a little more autonomous within the medical professional industry, but also some of the states were getting to something called direct access, meaning that you as a patient have the right to come to see a physical therapist first before you see a medical doctor, whereas before you had to do the opposite. You had to get a prescription or referral from a doctor, then you can go see PT. So now we might be more on the forefront of the patient care. So we got to really figure out if something happened to you, if you got an injury, is this something that physical therapy can do, or is it maybe a bigger problem? You know, is there something going on in your digestive system? Do you have autoimmune disorder? Do you have a fracture? We got to be able to figure that out, and then say, hey, are you first a candidate for physical therapy, or do you need to go to the ER? Do you need to see a doctor? Do you need an X-ray or something like that?
Okay, so now can you go ahead and show us what you do?
So what did you take from it? What did you get from the session?
Well, what I got from it was similar to something I kind of already knew as far as like retraining your body. Like you can get adjusted. You can come to yoga for a week and feel great, probably get a few releases. But continuously doing it and trying to readjust your body, re-educate your body, better posture and whatnot. I think those are some fairly simple things that most people, have in the back of their heads they should be doing.
Yeah. Dude, that's how I've always felt about it, like posture. It wasn't until you and someone else that helped me start realizing I was always walking around like this, and like this is how I'd walk everywhere.
Yeah. Well, you're pretty tall, so I guess you got But but Mike had mentioned that they're having them be required to get doctorates now to be physical therapy, which I think is great.
Yeah, I didn't realize that, but and I think for a while.
Oh, nice! Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But that's what surprised me. I think he said like the early 2000s. But I always figured that they were just masters.
Yeah. Okay. I just like the more the better, because I think there's a lot of I know that there's a lot of like bro science going on in gyms and amongst martial artists as far as like toughen it out, or just all weight, or a little rash here, a little toe injury there, and all this, and then that becomes our normal,
right?
And we don't get it, and we don't see it until the pain sets in, like he said, and that's a lot of athletes, a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, a lot of just athletes in general. We're so tough that you want to push through and you want to just keep going, but man, by the time you're feeling a little kink in your neck or a little something here, a little there, it might be a whole chain reaction that you set off, and there it is. So I think it's good to have an educated person who's in there saying, no, pull it back.
Right.
Let's do this first. Let's bring you back to baseline, and then you can start hitting it hard if you need to. Because, I know for me, that definitely made my back worse. It was just the constant, popping pills and then going out and hiking and doing. I know my back didn't shift out 2 centimeters right away. It just gradually kept going, and I gritted my teeth and stuck through it and didn't notice the signs, and then finally just breaking point. So I think that's good for a lot of young athletes to figure out now while they're young, and
for sure,
their bodies are still vital, still going.
Yeah, and I think we accept it too in a way. Either we don't want to realize it's there, or we accept it. But like the injuries,
or we're busy, or like he said, life happens.
Don't have time for it. But and not only the injuries, like with my knee. Partially torn ACL. Rehabbed it enough to where now I don't even need a brace. That was all through yoga, and through some chiropractic. I had the tibula head jammed back into place, or is it the tibula? I don't know.
Sounds good.
Dude, it was the most painful thing that I've ever done. But totally lost my.
No, but you needed that adjustment, because that was.
I would have been. Yeah. Oh, it was terrible. So that I needed that.
And that's something that yoga
movement there.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but that's something yoga probably couldn't have got into itself. You probably for sure couldn't have got that adjustment.
That popped out completely, and trying to get out of lockdown the wrong way. It was my fault, totally my fault. But so guys that aren't doing, especially guys that aren't doing yoga, one yoga can help out, get rid of so many things. On Friday I came in here, my back was still messed up, my neck was messed up. I spent 5 hours between riding, stretching out my hips, and just working on it. I got rid of everything. I felt awesome that night, and I was able to go play with Jake at the park, and throw him and everything else. And that was just from because I was working on my breathing, I was stretching, I was relaxing. But for people that aren't doing yoga,
or just any
or something like that.
Yeah, just any kind of dynamic stretching or dynamic warm up. Like
that where you're aware of your body.
I just I've worked with high level grapplers. I've worked with a few fighters, and I am constantly amazed when they say, "Oh man, I never do this," or "Oh, I can't touch my toes." I'm like, "But you're throwing head kicks, or you're trying to throw head kicks, but you can't touch." I just find it amazing. They must be super athletes or super tough. I know my body would break down if I wasn't constantly doing the stuff that we're doing. It's just amazing. But I think it's coming around. I think a lot more athletes are doing it. I mean, you constantly see guys with the roll balls and rolling muscles out, and that's great. That's great. But you can do it yourself too. You can get in there and with some good deep stretching and yoga, and you'll actually break a sweat. You'll learn some movement, and you'll learn movement that's going to correlate to a lot of martial arts.
Yeah.
Which is
I think too many guys think of it as a waste of time.
It has a stigma.
If you have X amount of hours to train, like, okay, am I going to go do jiu-jitsu or am I going to do yoga? Again, their thing is probably just not as...
And I agree. Look, if you're a fighter and you got to train stand-up, you got to train ground, I get it. What I'm suggesting is have your yoga day as your off day. Have it as your rest day, because you're resting, but you're not really resting. I mean, we're going to do a whole yoga session. I'm going to lead you through some visualization, against your opponent. Maybe, that's huge. Go through the whole gauntlet. Go through what did you learn yesterday? Visualize your combo that you've been working on with your coach, or that kicking combo or whatever, what have you. And you're going to be mentally running drills in your head while your body is doing something completely different. So I think once guys start to realize that, and a lot of guys are. I mean, you hear like Brendan Schaub and Joe Rogan and all these guys starting to do yoga, and it's great. I think it's super great that all these big tough guys tatted up are coming in and starting to realize the benefit, because I mean, man, if that's your job, your body, you're a grappler, you're a fighter, and that's your bread and butter. You gotta take care of it, because when you hit 27 and 30 and 34, shit starts to break down.
And now, let's take that another step. So, even if these guys did do yoga, because you're doing yoga all the time, we still, like, Mike was able to show how much he could help us. Like where we were, and he barely even looked at us. So he only did. So he looked at you. We looked at those clips too. He did those different tests on you, and he was able to show you where there was,
for sure,
you didn't have that connection there. Like, you have to re-educate your body to do that. And would you
no
fix that on your own, you think, or
I
you just probably thought it was normal, right?
Yeah, I probably thought it was normal. It became my normal, and that's where I think it's great to integrate chiropractic, healing, physical therapy. I think they're all necessary, because your brother gave me a big breakthrough. Mike gave me another big breakthrough, and through my own yoga practices, I get some. So yoga's not the end all be all. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm turning you too. But I think if fighters have it's time, man. It's time and money. It's such a brutal sport. But grapplers, athletes in general, if you can find time, if you have someone you trust, whether it's chiropractor or a physical therapist or just some doctor that has some good advice about the body. I mean, every piece of advice is good, right? I mean,
no, 100%. But with yoga, dude, yoga for everybody. Like, I know you want to do martial artists and athletes, and that's cool. But I want my friends to do yoga.
Oh yeah, of course.
I want the guys that don't think they can do yoga to do yoga, and I mean women too. I mean, and you could just do it, dude. I was doing it just in my basement on watching CDs.
I mean, for the guys that have that stigma, it's just for housewives or this. I mean, it's been around thousands of years. Back in the day, women weren't even allowed to practice yoga in India. I mean, look it up. That's how crazy old it is. I mean, so if you think it's just for women, actually no, bro. It started. It's just about moving the body. I mean, a lot of the poses, child's pose, a lot of the thing, up dog, down dog. It's things that animals and babies do. So it's super simple. Happy baby pose. Grab those toes and just say hello. It's simple stuff. So if guys can just lose that, and I think if they try, it's one of those things. If they try it, see how hard it is, and if they get the benefit from it, they'll realize, oh wow,
Yeah.
you know, this is something. I mean, if you're honest with yourself, or you could be that dude who's like, oh no, I'd rather go bench press and do all that.
Right.
All right, that's good too, dude. Go ahead and
Yeah.
you know, do
And
whatever you need.
And like, and that's the other thing with Mike, how much he can help those people. I mean, because he talked about, and we know from what the stress causes, like stress of everyday life, from
Yeah.
texting, from driving, from all those things, what it does to our body, dude. Even if you just are in a emotional interaction with someone, like that's a form of stress right there.
For
like,
sure.
Who knows what it's turning into? So, like, I realized, I was like, man, like, everyone could probably benefit, like, from seeing someone like Mike. Like, you don't have to wait for an injury. Like, you probably know too. Like, if you look at yourself in the mirror, dude, look at yourself in the mirror, turn sideways, look at yourself in the mirror, be honest. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Check your range of motion.
yeah. How am I feeling? How am I looking?
Yeah.
Like, is there something off? Has my neck always been like this, and that's just how I'm supposed to be? It's like, or do you go and like put in a little bit of time into yourself and,
Yeah.
and fix it? You
That's
know,
true.
take some responsibility. I think a lot of people just, dude, I'm always amazed sometimes. Like, people just let themselves go. They say, "Fuck it, I guess." As far
Life's
as
hard,
like,
man. Life's hard because you never know what they're going. You know, shit's going on, man.
I don't know,
Like I said, once again, you know, start of the show, our stresses
Yeah.
are
yeah.
like
Oh, yeah,
every
yeah,
day
yeah,
we get
yeah,
to do
yeah.
jujitsu or yoga or
Yeah.
roll. Like we're
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah,
We're moving,
yeah.
man.
I've been looking at that, dude. I've been looking at people's overall happiness too, and just trying to see, like, man, is their body language telling me they're like happy? Like,
I think that's
happy? Like that one definitely no. That one like maybe.
Well, I mean, look,
who
let's
knows?
just. I mean, you guys had your kids. You waited. You guys are, you know.
Yeah,
there's,
yeah.
there's a lot of people out there,
I
including
can
people in my
imagine.
family who are super young with kids, who have
Yeah.
to join the service or who have to
Yeah.
get this job or that job. There's no way I can
Yeah.
sit there and tell them, "Hey, do yoga." They're like,
Yeah.
"What the fuck are you talking about? Get out of here with that. I gotta,
Yeah.
you know, I gotta do this. And I get it. I
Right.
get it. It's just about."
Yeah,
When someone says do yoga or do this or try jujitsu or do that, it's not that.
yeah,
It's just you got to move your body to increase your overall happiness.
Yeah.
I mean, if you move your body and if you're happy with yourself, you're going to treat your kids better. You're going to treat your boss better. Or you
Right.
are the boss, you're going to treat your
Yeah.
employees better. You got to move your fucking body.
yeah,
Do something. Tai Chi. You got to do
Yeah.
something. Even if it's, like I tell people, if they don't have time to do jujitsu or yoga or take a spin class, I say, then take 5 minutes and find 5 poses that you like the most and do one every minute. That's it. 5
Yeah.
minutes. Right before you go to bed. Grab 5 poses or maybe grab some dumbbells. Do 5. I mean,
Right.
you just got to fucking start the train.
Yeah.
Get the train moving, you know?
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, I think in general, it's good to understand for athletes that physical therapy, I mean, it's all just a tool for you to increase your body's physical mechanics, awareness, and balance, everything.
Well, dude, I'm gonna call him today and schedule an appointment for myself because my knee,
Nice.
I want him to do like a full thing, check everything out, not just my knee, and then also for Jen because
That's beautiful.
she's been training jiu-jitsu and coming home with
Yeah,
injuries
she's
and everything
loving
else,
it.
and even if she didn't have like a hip issue or anything like that. I want her just to go and check because I know he's going to improve something. Like he's going to show something in myself and with her like that isn't moving correctly, where there isn't that connection.
Yeah,
and
for
improve
sure.
it. And it's like, so why not do that? So yeah, I'm going to make that appointment today
Nice.
or tomorrow.
What book are we what are we
dude,
doing
I'm
today?
excited. Yeah, Brightside. I always look on the bright side.
That's nice.
Yeah, this is. I still tell people. I send people to this one first. When people ask, like, it was my first book, my baby. Gonna be coming out with.
It's
the
my
second one.
favorite. It's the only one I read fully,
Yeah.
which is, but I, it's the most relatable, I think. If you can't relate to Brightside, then all right, well, it's not for
yeah,
you.
yeah. No, and that's what's cool. I think I found that people either really like it a lot or they hate it. So it's either gonna be like a 4 or 5 star rating or 1. I had one person say they would have given me a half a star, but there wasn't one. That's the only reason they gave me a 1. I was like,
Someone
I
invaded.
was like, where the fuck do you live? But no, with Brightside, I'm excited, dude. And that was a good lesson, man. I let go of I had recorded nearly the entire book. I realized I didn't do a very good job. I'm not a narrator. I'm not trained in that.
Yeah.
And so I got a guy who just kills it. T. Quillen. Yeah, amazing voice actor. He does all kinds of stuff. I had been sharing stories from Twisted Reunion, but now that Brightside's coming out, I'm just going to do this. This is going to be the first chapter. Every week we'll come out with the next one. Every time we do a podcast, we'll come out with the next chapter. So you guys can listen to it here for free, or pick it up on Audible and all those places when it comes out. But it's still not even out. So this is the first time anyone's hearing it. I think it's fucking awesome.
Nice.
So yeah, I couldn't be happier. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Out.
Chapter 1. They call us thought thieves, but it's not like we have a choice. All the sick, twisted things rolling around in people's heads, we can't help but hear. God knows I've tried to turn it off. The sexual perversions, the violent fantasies about your boss, that annoying neighbor you want dead, even those unfortunate thoughts about your kids. I've had to stand there and listen. I'd never wish this upon anyone, not even my mom, the woman who's been oversharing since I'd slid from her womb. You wouldn't believe the awful shit I've heard. Imagine if you knew every dark thought people had about you. Trust me, it's not pleasant. In any given moment, the person you love is thinking about someone else she'd like to screw. How fat you've gotten. How unbearable it is to hear you chew. Later she'd hold you and kiss you and regret most of it. And you'd fall asleep hating yourself for having all the same thoughts. Secrets keep the world from burning. I know this now more than ever. The secret I have left could get everyone killed. One person's already dead. More are sure to follow. All because I couldn't keep my stupid thoughts shut. So I understand why they rounded us up, thought thieves like me, and took us up to this little town on the top of a mountain, with drops so deep there's no need for a fence. It keeps the country functioning, lets everyone feel safe knowing we're up here in the sky, far away from everyone's thoughts. Except our own. They call our town Brightside, because as they like to remind us, things could be worse. Some thought thieves weren't so lucky. They were beaten and hanged, shot in the streets. Others were wrapped in straitjackets and locked away in squishy walled rooms. Brightside was our chance to start over. We could hold jobs and have apartments, and even go on dates and shop in little stores. It wouldn't be so bad, they told us, as long as we never tried to leave. But now it's day 100. The day it's all going to end. I guess we'll find out how bad it can get. My bedroom window's right in front of me, but I've got my eyes closed. The warm glow of the sunrise is trying to make me peek, but I can't look at that jagged crack running down the center of the glass. I can't look at the pool of blood on the chair. Tiny drops on the ceiling. 8 pounds of power rest across my thighs. My Mossberg 12-gauge. American metal. Dad's special gift. Odds are this is my last sunrise. I open my eyes, take in the absolute beauty. I wonder if Danny and Sarah are awake and seeing it too. If I can somehow help them escape, I might make up for some of the things I've done. Not Rachel, though. What happened with her is beyond redemption. I can't go back and change it. If I'd just given her what she needed, told her what she wanted to hear, she'd be coming with us. I know what happened to Rachel goes beyond day 39, but that's when it all started. It was 7 hours before day 39 officially began. Rachel and I were in our office, the only one with 2 desks. They put us there because of our shitty sales record. Jobs in Brightside were based on the ones we held in our former lives. I used to sell BMWs. Here, I sold timeshares. At BMW, I never missed a quota. I never blew a sale. But I always was within 6 feet of the customer, the range I needed to hear someone's thoughts. On the phone, I was next to worthless. Clock on the wall showed the same time as my computer. All the clocks in Brightside were perfectly in sync. No reason to be late. No reason to think this wasn't all perfectly normal. They even hid the security cameras to help us relax. They put them inside the light fixtures, behind the bushes in the square, where we had a bakery, a bar, and even an electronics store, all built for us to make us believe this was just a regular town, a place just like any other. No reason to ever escape. Rachel got hung up on before she could finish telling the guy how close the condo was to the beach. We had 5 minutes left of work, enough time for her to make another call, but she opened the bottom desk drawer and pulled out a bottle of lotion. She squirted it onto her palm and rubbed her legs that were spilling out from under the desk. Rachel and I had been dating for close to 3 weeks. Long enough for Rachel to decide that I was the one. Long enough for me to give her a key to my place, to convince myself I loved her back. Everything gets accelerated in Brightside, because you can't lie. Everything's exposed. Normal couples take 6 months to admit how they feel. Brightsiders do it on the first date. Rachel rolled back in her chair and looked at me like I'd just said something. It made me feel sorry for all the people I'd done this to over the years, taking whatever I'd pleased. She got up with a smile and walked over to my desk. Her red skirt stopped mid-thigh and was tight enough to be painted on. She didn't need to listen to my thoughts to know I liked it. The last couple of days, Rachel only saw me at work, and she knew I was ready to break up with her. It's not that things were bad. They were just too intense. Rachel was the first thought thief I'd ever been with. I had no idea how exhausting it could be. You can't just say you're tired or nothing's wrong. Rachel knew everything, even though I never said a word. That's why she sat on the corner of my desk, crossed her legs so I couldn't focus on my computer screen. She'd put her dark hair in a ponytail, so it looked less Jewish. I'd only thought that once, but she'd never let it go. Rachel smiled and took off the glasses she didn't need, the ones that looked exactly like Mom's. She took the part of the frame that rested behind her ear and put it in her mouth. She sucked on it a bit and spoke around it. "You got any plans tonight?" I noticed Rachel had gotten contacts. Her eyes so fucking blue. Just like Michelle's, my last girlfriend before Brightside. Rachel turned her legs toward me. They were shiny and smooth and smelled like pina colada. "I just shaved," she said. We both knew I wanted to feel the inside of her thigh. Run my hand up to see if she was telling the truth. But I just mumbled that they looked nice and powered off my computer. Rachel rubbed her calf against my knee until I looked up at her. "I need to see you tonight," she said. I adjusted my khakis, pointlessly trying to conceal the fact that her plan was working. "We can go out," she said. "Something nice? I'm thinking Oscars." Oscars meant a lot of money, something I wasn't making at Brightside. Always staying one step ahead of me, Rachel said dinner was on her. She wanted me to know things could be different. She was willing to change. It didn't have to be so intense. "Come on, it'll be fun," she said, "and I don't even need to stay over tonight, unless you want me to." Rachel took hold of my collar and pulled me in, her red lips so close. I could feel the security camera zooming in from its hiding spot. I pushed her back and said, "Fine, We'll go to Oscar's. Rachel smiled and spun off my desk. She let me watch her ass as she picked up her purse and walked out the door. Oscar's was only a few blocks from my apartment, and even though I was dressed and ready, I waited until the last possible minute to leave. I didn't want to get there before Rachel. I passed under the bronzed archway and entered the park with its enormous pine trees. Someone had decorated them with little white lights to make it look like a winter wonderland. There were no rules about sticking to the path, so I cut across the grass, staying far away from the edge where the mountain dropped off. A full mile, straight down. Heights threw my stomach around in my chest and made me shake like a little girl. I passed the pond and took deep breaths to clear my head. The air was cool. Everything silent. The cabin was high up on the hill with its big red logs and long bay window. The curtains were always pulled back so we'd see the residents who'd broken the rules. Some had refused to go to work or started fights. A few had slit their wrists too shallow. In the common room, a small blonde in a nurse's uniform sat behind the desk reading a magazine. The rule breakers sat in chairs, their faces pale, eyes ringed and black. They weren't allowed to talk during rehabilitation. They were given pills to keep them calm. The cabin was the big reminder in Brightside that our town was still a prison. I focused my eyes straight, kept walking, went through the south archway, and stepped onto Main Street. The 6 small stores were dark and closed, but everything else was lit. Every 10 feet, a lamppost to wipe out any shadow. No place to hide. I strolled down the deserted street as the American flag flapped high above the square. The flapping like a goddamn slap in the face. I knew I had to clear my head. I needed to blow out all the bad thoughts before I turned the corner. Rachel was waiting for me on the bench outside Oscar's. She was wearing her green fancy dress, the one she'd worn under her robe at graduation. Back then, it fit perfectly. Now she had to suck in. Her hair was up in a French twist, and her makeup was thick, especially her lips. Dark red. Her glasses were gone. She wanted me to know she'd been paying attention. I didn't realize it was supposed to be that kind of dinner, but at least I had on a nice pair of jeans and my shirt had a collar. Rachel didn't care what I was wearing. She was just happy I showed. I took her hand and said, "Let's go eat." Oscar's windows were tinted just enough so you had to press your face against the glass to see the idiots paying $30 for the same steak they could buy for 10 across the street. Brightside liked to remind us we could still be special. The hostess was going to seat us in the back, tucked away in the corner. Rachel asked if we could sit at a table. She knew I wouldn't break up with her in the open. We sat in between 2 couples silently engaged in conversation. Rachel wanted to talk, though, wanted me to feel that this was a normal date. She knew I was thinking about the cabin and that fucking flag. She told me to order anything I wanted. She asked about my day, even though she'd been sitting next to me the entire 8 hours. Our steaks arrived, and Rachel kept asking questions. Like the first concert I went to, and the last book I'd read. She was trying, and I felt like an asshole. I answered her questions, and I even asked a few of my own. It made me think this is how our first date should have been. Not me sharing how much I hated my mom, Rachel sharing what her uncle did with her panties. But by the time that we'd finished dessert, we'd run out of things to say. We were like an old married couple after only 3 weeks. I took Rachel's hand and started to have the talk we'd been avoiding. She put her other hand on top of mine like it was a game. "Let's just grab a drink." She knew I wasn't a drinker. It's not that I have a problem with booze. Problem is, when I'm buzzed, I start thinking about shit I shouldn't. Back home in Ohio, I could get away with it. In Brightside, it was a problem. I said, "It's kind of late." Rachel snorted. That's how she laughed. "We'll only have one." She looked so desperate sitting there, her hand squeezing mine. She just wanted us to have some fun. "All right," I said. "We'll go for one." We crossed the square and headed for Riley's, the bar where everyone knows your name and all the horrifying shit that fills your head. It started out fine, because that's how bars usually start out. Then an hour turned to 2, and I was somehow on my 6th Jack. All my thoughts started creeping out like cockroaches. Rachel handed me another shot. I talked louder to keep other things to myself, but some guy asked what I had against the flag. Rachel laughed and pulled me towards the door. Everything was spinning, and I thought I might fall over. Rachel kissed me, and kissed me. And then it was day 39. I woke up to the darkness. The curtains were closed. I had no idea what time it was, or how we'd gotten back to my place. Besides the pounding headache, it seemed like every other morning with Rachel. But something was definitely wrong. Rachel was sitting on the edge of the bed, legs dangling over the side. She kept pulling at her curls, over and over, again and again. Her right hand was clenched, her fingers pressed down on her thumb like she was trying to break it. I put my head back down on the pillow, tired and hungover. I was still halfway in my dream, and it was a good one. Michelle and I were walking in the forest, its grass so green. Ohio's brilliant blue sky above. Michelle stopped at a clearing and laid down her red blanket. Then she was underneath me. Her eyes were the lightest blue with the softest shine. I brushed Michelle's sandy blonde hair from the side of her face, ran my thumb lightly across her cheek, around her ear, then cradled her head. She reached behind my back and pulled me down. My heart covered hers. Her heart, my heart, beat to beat. Can you feel that, Joe? And then I was inside her, and we were white on red, all that blue above us. Beautiful colors back then. Michelle. 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 Are you fucking serious? The voice definitely wasn't Michelle's. The dream was gone. I was awake, back in Brightside, darkness all around me. I had no idea what I'd done, but I knew it wasn't good. Come back to sleep, I said. Rachel wouldn't face me. All her focus was on those curtains, the ones I refused to open, the mile of Brightside beyond them. I reached out and put my hand on her back. Rachel recoiled and my hand fell. Her mouth was a black hole moving in the darkness. You still love her. I played dumb. What Mom wouldn't call a hard stretch. Who? Rachel swung her knee onto the bed so it was up against my ribs, the thin white sheet the only thing between us. Please don't lie to me, Joe. I'm not an idiot. My eyes were adjusting to the dark. I saw Rachel's blue contacts, the black trails bleeding beneath them. I took hold of her fist and eased it open. I rubbed her college ring, the emerald set in white gold. She'd gotten it a month before they brought her to Brightside. You're not an idiot, I said. You've got the ring to prove it. She said, You think this is funny? It wasn't funny. It was scary. I said I was sorry. I shouldn't have joked like that. I kept touching her ring. I started picturing her in school lying under all those guys. Rachel's hand clenched back into a fist. I couldn't control my thoughts. Rachel, it's late. I looked over at the clock. We've got to work in 3 hours. Do you wish I was her? She knew I couldn't answer that. Not in one word. Not the one she was looking for. Michelle was the woman I was going to marry. She found out the hard way about my secret. She was there when they took me away. Rachel sat waiting for an answer, staring at me, peering inside. I took a deep breath, trying to clear my head. But she knew everything. Everyone always did in Brightside. I asked if she was hungry, mentioned the diner, some eggs. Rachel just sat there. She needed me to say it, but I couldn't. Rachel reached over and grabbed my dick poking under the sheet. My hard-on was news to me, but the proof she needed was in her hand. It looked like she'd captured the world's smallest ghost. I said, "Let go, I have to piss." Rachel spoke like I was a special ed student. "How about you just wait? I'm not pissing the bed because you want to talk." There wasn't much left of my dick to grip because getting treated like a child isn't my thing. But that didn't stop Rachel. "You're not walking away," she said. I took hold of her wrist and pried off her fingers. "You need to stop this." And then, real serious and slow so she heard me, I said, "Fucking relax." Fucking relax? Rachel's football player. His words coming out of my mouth. I hadn't meant to say it. Not like that, at least. Or had I? Cornered, what was I capable of? Rachel wasn't the only one who could use thoughts against people. I'd learned about the jocks, the Dartmouth boys, all the other guys on our second date. She was drunk and underneath me. I thought she was moaning because of me, but then her thoughts started pouring, flooding her head, and then mine. She realized what was happening and she started crying. She was ashamed. No one had ever seen these things with Rachel. I told her it was okay, that I didn't care. All things considered, I'm not a bad guy. I don't try to hurt people on purpose. But just like Rachel, sometimes I can't let shit go. Rachel got off the bed, moved to the other side of the room to get out of my range. I couldn't stomach the disgusting thoughts in my head. Out of range, I could finally lie. "I'm over, Michelle. It was just a dream." But Rachel was bawling. I sat up all the way and asked her to please come back to bed. Rachel wiped at her tears like she was mad at them. "Yeah, you're over her. You just proved it to me, right? And it was so sweet. Carving my name on a tree. Just like we were in junior high." It was stupid. Something I did on day 7. I'd used my key to carve out a big heart. Put "Joe loves Michelle" inside it. I didn't think anyone would see it. But Brightsiders see everything. Rachel and I were coming back to my place one night and the lock was sticking. I damaged the key by carving Michelle's name. Rachel didn't say anything. Didn't need to. I felt awful, though. So I went out the next day and I crossed it out. Replaced Michelle's name with Rachel's. It was childish. Something an 8th grader would do. But it was better than what Rachel was doing back then, getting finger-banged behind the gymnasium. Rachel kicked the bed. She was back in range. "You got something to say?" Fuck. 39 days were not enough to get used to this. From day 1, we all knew we weren't alone. They told us being in a group together would make it easier, but it was so much worse. Everything on display, nowhere to hide. It's brought Rachel and me together. We thought we could elevate past the dysfunctional relationships, especially our parents. But we were even more dysfunctional. All honest and exposed, the little secrets and awful truths firing off like buckshot at anyone within range. I'm not proud of it. But I couldn't stop thinking about the list. And it was long. All the guys Rachel had been with. The depths she'd sunk. "You're fucking sick," she said. "What the hell happened last night? I remember going to Riley's and you ordering those shots. Oh, so you're just drunk? What's your problem? I shouldn't care if you dream about her? You gotta pretend I'm her to fuck me?" As calm as I could, I said, "I don't do that." Rachel's jaw clenched so tight I thought she'd break teeth. I usually have a great memory, one of the things I hate about myself. Not on day 39. I was having trouble thinking, let alone remembering. The walk home was one big blur. Rachel's jaw relaxed. She was listening to my thoughts. I was trying to piece things together, grasping at vapors. The smell of sex was stronger than my breath, and I guessed it was possible I imagined Rachel as Michelle. But I couldn't admit that, and saying I blacked out wouldn't change anything. I put my hands over my head as if that would block her out. "I didn't do that," I said. And I heard her thought. "You're a liar." "Rachel, I don't remember anything. If that happened, I'm sorry. I never should have had those shots. So it's my fault." She started pacing, moving in and out of range. "Holy shit. Can you just stop? You're acting crazy." Rachel smiled, breathed through her nose. "You want to see crazy?" Her voice scared the shit out of me. She was all the way on the other side of the room. "Rachel, I know you're angry, but you need to calm down." "Oh, you want me to calm down? Should I get some air? Maybe we should take a break? That's what you want, right?" Right then was my best chance of denying things. Her by the door, both of us out of range, lights off so she couldn't look me in the eyes. But I knew we weren't going to work, no matter how much I wanted it. All I had to do was say it. But I couldn't. "Rachel, come on." "Where should I go, Joe? Should I go back home? Huh? Oh, right. I can't. This is it." Her smile was creeping me out. "This is home." I suddenly realized this was about so much more than Michelle. Rachel was cracking, like a dam ready to burst. "Rachel, please, I'm begging you." Rachel screamed like she was being burned. Her legs gave out. She thudded off the hardwood. She put her forehead to the floor. Her tiny fist strangled her matted hair, and she just kept screaming. The lights flashed on, the 120s blinding me even with the fixture over them. "Rachel, come on, be quiet." I looked at the clock. We still had an hour before morning lights. They never came on early. "Rachel, please." Her throat wouldn't close, just kept spraying screams until I covered my ears. "I think you're great, Rachel. I wouldn't be with you if I didn't. Just please be quiet." She kept wailing. And I knew they were coming. Rachel knew it too. But she didn't seem to care. She just curled up under the bright lights. Everything exposed. The scar on her collarbone, the 2-inch wide birthmark on her lower back. She banged on the floor with her head, pleading for someone to let her go. "I just want to go home," she sobbed. "Why won't they let us go?" My head was pounding from the lights and the hangover, but I kept my voice nice and quiet when I said, "Just come to bed, okay? We'll say you stubbed your toe." The bootsteps were coming. "Rachel, get over here now." I jumped off the bed, felt foolish because my dick was just hanging there. But Rachel wasn't looking at me. She was still crying to the floor, the voice not her at all, broken and shattered. I yanked her arm, but she wouldn't move. The boots were here. It was going to hurt like hell, but I had to get close, right up against her so my thoughts would sound like they were coming through a megaphone. Get up! They're here! Please! Rachel made herself smaller, pressed her fists against the side of her face. They didn't even knock, just opened the door. 2 of them standing there, all calm, like they were here to fix the sink. Rachel screamed, "Fuck you! You can't keep us here! You can't!" I told Rachel to shut up. She did, but only to spit in one guy's face. The guy didn't even wipe it off, just twisted her arm, almost snapped it. She begged him to let her go. Then she clawed him in the eyes. I stepped forward, my hands out to show them I wasn't looking for a fight. She had too much to drink. Please don't. The baton cracked off my skull, and I fell. The boots walked right up to my face. "You got something else to say?" I kept my face to the floor, listening as they dragged Rachel from my room. Her screams slowly fading until they were gone.